Hey everybody, I'm Aaron Simmons. This is Philosophy for Where We Find Ourselves, September 23rd, 2024. All right, today I'm giving myself a little bit of a challenge. I've got to walk down my street and get my mail, but in the process, I'm going to see if I can explain Hegelian dialectics in under 5 minutes. All right, see you in a minute. All right, so over the last 3 weeks or so, my poor students have endured over 9 hours of lecture from me about the philosophy of Hegel. Now, there is absolutely no way we could even scratch the surface in just a few minutes, but I thought, well, shoot, as I'm going to go get the mail anyway, maybe I can invite you into one of the most complicated and yet essential aspects of Hegelian philosophy. And that's his idea of a dialectical logic. Now, he works this out primarily in places like the Encyclopedia Logic, in books like The Science of Logic. It also shows up, though, across his authorship in the Phenomenology of Spirit, and also even his philosophy of history and philosophy of religion. The idea is this: anything that exists is what it is, only in relation to what it is not. So, for example, if I stop here, I am what I am in no small part because I am not that tree or that bush or this driveway. What it is to be a thing is to not be all the other things that you could be. So in order to make sense of how we understand logic, Hegel says we start by understanding that identity is something that is always in and through its negation. Now, we sometimes could call this like we tarry with the negative. We delay with the negative in order to receive ourself, in order for identity to be possible, right? That tree is not this tree. And so the relation between these different objects is in many ways a relation between X and not X. Something is X only in that it is not X. And so that fundamental relation is part of what identifies each thing as what it is. Okay, so if we start with that theory of identity, that something is only in and through what it is not, then we just have a little twist and we get Hegel's basic logical idea of the dialectic. To exist is to be in relation to what you are not, and yet that relation itself always produces some third thing. We start with a thesis, right? Let's let our thesis be that I am not that tree. But then we have an antithesis by which the thesis is what it is. That tree is not me. So I, thesis, tree, antithesis. But in and through our relationship, something else emerges. And that something else is what we might call a synthesis. This synthesis is the, you might say, way of maintaining both the thesis and the antithesis without both of them now existing as they did before. They rise up as they are also negated. Now look, I know that sounds nuts, but think of it this way. When we talk about it in terms of history, we might say that, the Greek period gave rise to the Roman period, which gave rise to the medieval period or something. But it's not that the medieval period doesn't include the Greek and Roman impetus. It's only the medieval period insofar as it's in many ways inheriting the Greek and Roman background. But it's inheriting that by also now moving into something new, by rejecting what it was that made those things what they were as discrete units. So in this way, that basic principle of thesis and antithesis, of identity through negation, gives rise to a progressive conception of how things exist. So in history, in religion, in all kinds of other ways, Hegel basically says what it is to be what one is to move forward in this progressive sense by negating and yet maintaining. The German word here is Aufhebung. When we engage in this sublation principle, we both reject and maintain as something new emerges. Thesis gives rise to the antithesis, which gives rise to the thesis, and that interplay moves upward into the synthesis. All right, 4 minutes, 58 seconds. Right there's my mailbox. I'll see you next time, unless the piano falls on our heads.